Well, I think we have the perfect host to talk about this World Series. Roy Smalley grew up in Southern California, knows a lot about the Dodgers, played for the Yankees, has been analyzing baseball for a long time. He is the ideal person to talk about the first Yankees-Dodgers World Series in quite a while. We also want to talk about the Twins' change of hitting coaches, what it could mean, and we'll chat a little bit about the possibility of a new ownership group coming in here. This is Chin Music. This is our baseball show at talknorth.com. If you like the show, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. Also, we keep expanding the line. We have the best lineup in town. For this show, usually it's Roy Smalley, Lavelle, E. Neal, and myself, Jim Suhan from the Star Tribune. Lavelle's off today. We'll have him back next week. We've got Michael Russo and Anthony Lepanto on hockey, Kevin Gorg on hockey, Bardon Views on hockey, Jeff Diamond, the former Vikings general manager, on football, the Viking Update Show, Dawn Mitchell on sports and her interviews, Mike Grimm on the Gophers. Randy Shaver's new high school football show has been fantastic for us. He's getting all kinds of exclusive content because of his connections. John Krasinski on the Wolves. So check it all out. We do appreciate it. We also have outdoor content in conjunction with the Ron Shara Productions, all the shows you see on Valley Sports. We also do podcasts with those people. Check it all out. We do appreciate it. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. I want to thank Aquarius Home Services, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and True Vision Institute. All right, Roy, before we get to all the Twins news, what's it going to be like for you to watch a World Series being played in the Bronx and at Chavez Ravine?
You know, I think it's going to be a lot like it is for a lot of people. I mean, I hope people feel this way. I know, people hate the Yankees and people hate the Dodgers across the country in a lot of ways. But a Yankee-Dodger World Series, for me, is a lot of nostalgia, I think. But in the macro sense, I think it's great for baseball this year. I really do. Baseball's been really fun through across the country in lots of cities. It's been really fun, and to watch Soto and Judge do what they did in New York, and then watch what Mookie Betts did in L.A. and don't even know what to say about what Ohtani has done. I mean, it's once in a lifetime, probably more than one lifetime. I just think that matchup is perfect for this year. I mean, I just don't see how it could be any better. How could you not want to see those four guys? And there's a lot of other supporting players, on both teams. But gosh, just to have those four guys, see who steps up on the biggest stage in two of the most iconic stadiums. I just think it's great. But it's also nostalgic for me, going back to my youth and living in LA and following the Dodgers and being at Chavez Ravine a lot, and being at World Series games with my uncle Gene Mock, and when I watched as a 10-year-old or 11-year-old, I watched Sandy Koufax punch out Mickey Mantle from the dugout box behind the plate. It was incredible, and so it harkens back to that for me. But even beyond that, it goes back to the 50s, and there are still people. I was just talking to somebody the other day. There are still people in New York that were Brooklyn Dodger fans, and when they had the Brooklyn Dodgers, the New York Giants, and the Yankees all playing in a radius of about 10, 12 miles, and it harkens back to that again. It's the glory days of baseball, and so I mean, I think we've got a couple of mantle type characters and a couple of Duke Snyder type characters on each of these teams. I think it's really cool.
It's funny because I tend to root for everybody other than the Yankees and the Dodgers to get to the World Series. Just because I'd rather see smaller market. I hate baseball's financial structure, and I don't like seeing the richest teams just win. But now that we're here, I'm so glad it's these two teams because of all the things you said. I want to see Ohtani play in a World Series. I want to see Aaron Judge play in a World Series. I want to see Mookie Betts again. I mean, the talent on these teams is outrageous, and we're coming off Juan Soto, one of the most dramatic home runs we've seen in postseason history.
Yeah, really true. I mean, there's a guy that has already stepped up and lived up to his advanced billing. I mean, this guy is a sensational hitter. I don't know if outside of New York because of Judge's bigger than life, literal physical stature or figurative stature in the game. I don't know if outside of New York, Soto has gotten, enough or as much credit and understanding of what a great hitter, a truly great hitter he is. And I love when there's big expectations for people and they step up on the biggest stages. I just think that's really great, and we got a chance to see that happen, from players on both teams here this year. So I just think that's great. And by the way, neither team has been in the World Series for a while. I guess the Dodgers are the most recent.
Yeah.
But Yankees not for a long time. Dodgers not for what, 6 or 7 years? Wasn't it 17 or 19? It was when Houston cheated, I think, last time.
Right.
I don't remember when that was. But anyway, I mean, it's not like they bought themselves the World Series teams every year. As a matter of fact, it's been quite the opposite.
Yeah, and I always pointed out when people just wanted to talk about nothing but payroll size, I think you can spend to a level where you're almost guaranteed to be competitive, but you can't buy a World Series. Otherwise, the Yankees have one World Series championship since 2000. The Dodgers have one World Series championship since, I think, 1985 or something like that. So there's a lot more that goes into baseball than just how much money you spend, and I wish we'd all recognize that.
Totally agree. Just one quick thought to finish that one up. We've talked a lot about how it's really important for front offices to be smart, right, and to figure out how to make the best of their payroll, how to make best use of the dollars that they're going to have, and if you're going to step outside the box a little bit of your budgetary comfort, how you do that and how you spend money on the minor leagues and all that. One thing that's not considered. People stop at the Twins, for example, or anybody else. They just don't spend enough money. Right. They haven't stepped up and spent money. And there's not enough thought about how many teams have spent a whole bunch of money and where did it get them. You have to be smart. You have to be really, really good at picking talent that's already in the big leagues that you think is going to help you, and probably better. Well, better. You have to be better at picking that talent than you do picking a college pitcher in the draft. I think that's overlooked. It's only half the equation is spending money. The other half is being right about what you decided to spend money on, and very few people have done it consistently.
And one of the funny things about the Twins cut payroll. I'm not saying that was a good move, either for PR or competitive purposes. But one way you can look at that, them cutting payroll from 2023 to 2024, is 2023, they took a flyer on Joey Gallo. They spent a lot of money on a guy who didn't even make it through the season before they cut him. That's a lot of the big payrolls have Joey Gallos on them, and that's why they're big payrolls.
Well, that's right, and there are other Joey Gallos, as you say. Across the board that just didn't work, and I think that it's not enough just to say you need to spend more money. If you're going to spend more money, if and when you spend more money, you have really got to be right, and it just hasn't proven out that people can do it consistently.
So what is it like to play at Chavez Ravine? Because, and I'm sure, you played most of your league. I'm thinking about it. Did you play Major League Baseball games at Chavez Ravine?
I did not play.
Right.
I did not play Major League Baseball games in Chavez Ravine ever. I was an American League guy.
Right.
Pre interleague play, my whole life. I did play 2 games in a college World Series of sorts. We played in my 2 years at USC, and we won the national championships both years, 72 and 73. And after this World Championship, after the College World Series, in 72, they took a college all-star team to Japan, and we played the Japanese college all-stars, which was an incredible experience for a bunch of 21-year-olds. And then the next year, after we won the College World Series, the Japan College All-Stars came over and played our college all-star team that they had selected. And we played the first two games in Anaheim Stadium. We went to Omaha and played three, where they have the College World Series. We played 3 games there, and then we played 2 games back at Chavez Ravine. So those are the 2 games that I've actually played. I grew up at fielding ground balls at shortstop in Chavez Ravine. Cause my uncle Gene Mock, when he managed the Phillies, and again when he managed the Expos, he'd come and get me. And we would drive to Chavez Ravine together. And when he had some time, he'd throw me some batting practice out in the outfield. And then when the teams took batting practice and infield practice, I went out and the coaches hit me ground balls as I watched line drives shooting by me like, oh my God, I hope I can catch that someday as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old. But anyway, I have obviously some huge nostalgia for Chavez Ravine. I've been on that field a lot and played two College World Series games there. So I love the place.
I'm interested in this. There are so many great ballparks in America today, and there are still the great traditional ones like Fenway and Wrigley. Where do Chavez Ravine and New Yankee Stadium even rank in this day and age?
I think if there had not been an old Yankee Stadium, I think that New Yankee Stadium would get a little bit better shake than it does. I think a lot of us are disappointed in that stadium just because of how iconic the old one was, and new stadiums have to happen, new infrastructure has to happen, new suites have to be built. There's a lot of baseball economic reasons and other reasons that new stadiums have to be at some point in time have to be opened. I liked the old place a lot. The new place is a nice facsimile for modern baseball, I suppose. Chavez Ravine for me is now almost like the old Yankee Stadium or the old Tiger Stadium or the old Comiskey. I mean, I love those old ballparks. And Chavez Ravine was done in 59, I think 1960 maybe was the first year they played there. I think somewhere around there, and it was spectacularly beautiful. It was kind of like Kauffman Stadium when Kauffman Stadium was built, and everything was, and that was such a beautiful surrounding that they had created. But with Chavez Ravine, I mean, it was in the ravine, and there are little miniature mountains all around that you can see, hills and mountains, and built into the ravine. And they did a great job of the ballpark and the view, across the ballpark, into nature was just beautiful at the time, and it still is. And they've renovated just enough to keep it relevant and beautiful. And I mean, I just think it's a great place. I think it stands as, it's from 1959 or 1960. I mean, it's an old ballpark now, people talk about, well, the Baltimore ballpark is now considered old because it was one of the first downtown ballparks, but this one is whatever it is, 30, 25, some years older, and it's still relevant, it's still beautiful, and it harkens back to to all the great players that have played there since, in the National League and now American League since 1960 or so. I think it's a wonderful place. I like it. I like it better than the new Yankee Stadium. I wouldn't have said that about the old stadium, but I really like Chavez Ravine. Yeah,
and it just feels like LA. Sun's always shining. You're surrounded by nature. See the city. It's cool. Yeah. It's not. It might not be the greatest pure stadium, but man, I love being there. I think it's a cool place.
It is.
All right, let's get to the hitting coach situation. Interesting, David Popkin got picked up right away, and the Twins made their hire already. We'll talk about that. I want to let you know we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios, and we want to tell you more about Aquarius Home Services.
Yes, fall is in full swing, and Old Man Winter will be visiting soon. Scott for Aquarius Home Services. Now is the time to make sure your furnace is ready for the winter ahead. And to help you prepare, Aquarius is offering a Furnace Peak Performance Check for just $29. Don't let old man winter catch you by surprise. Schedule your Furnace Peak Performance Check today at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Many thanks to a Minnesota company that does great work, Minnesota Masonic Charities.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
We'd also like you to hear from John Krasinski about his experience getting LASIK at True Vision Institute.
Yeah, I'm a brand new man, Jim, this week. If for listeners of the John Krasinski show over the last month or more, I've been telling you all about True Vision Institute in Bloomington. And we've been talking a lot about the help that they gave me in the consultation to figure out how to correct my vision once and for all, and all the process of going through it. Well, finally, last week, I was able to go in and have LASIK surgery at True Vision. And I've talked to people who have had it before, and they all say how much it changes their lives. I'm like, all right, come on. Can it really be that good? And here I am, less than a week out from surgery. And I'm telling you, it is that good. For the first time since I've been in fourth grade, I don't have glasses or contacts to mess with. I don't have to worry about going in for, every year or two for vision checkups and for new glasses and putting hundreds of dollars into new glasses or new contacts. A contact gets ripped and I got to go replace that. The best thing about it is I wake up in the morning and I'm not fumbling around for my glasses so I can see, check my phone, look over at my wife and see her face. Like I'm seeing 100% clearly. And it happened almost immediately after the surgery. I went in for the surgery last week and I was a little nervous. You had a laser pointed at your eye. It's nerve wracking, but the people at True Vision were so welcoming and calming and comforting that it really took a lot of the anxiety away for me for the procedure itself. I was in and out in a little over an hour. The procedure itself actually only takes a couple of minutes. They do what they need to do to get your eyes fixed and they get you on your way. My mom gave me a ride home. I spent the night just kind of resting, sleeping. When I woke up the next morning, seeing 100% clearly. Could drive to my follow-up appointment, 20/20 vision. Everything was great. And I still am kind of walking around pinching myself right now that I can't believe I don't have glasses or contacts anymore. And Dr. Chu was absolutely phenomenal through the process. I was nervous. He has a very soothing, calming voice. He takes you through it very easily. He puts you at ease. He makes you feel comfortable when you're on the table getting the procedure done. And it just was really helpful for me in just kind of taking away a lot of the nervousness that I had about it. He was so easygoing and was so reassuring, and just talked me through everything. It only took a few minutes to get done. And then I was out the door and on my way. A week later, I feel great. I'm seeing perfectly. I wish I would have done it 10 years ago. Go to truevision.com and set up your consultation. Tell them the John Krasinski Show sent you. But honestly, I cannot speak highly enough about my experience there and about the results. It's just life-changing stuff.
Okay, so the Twins have hired Baltimore hitting coach Matt Borgschulte, who used to be in the Twins organization. Obviously, the Orioles didn't have a great year this year, but have had a lot of success developing young talent. It's a very logical move. David Popkin gets fired by the Twins, gets picked up immediately by the Toronto Blue Jays. I almost feel like major league hitting coaches these days are like hockey coaches. You just got to cycle them one place to another every few years to freshen things up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a couple of things about that. First of all, I'm really happy for Popkins that he got a job right away. That's as good for him, really good for him. I'm really happy that it wasn't like he was fired and he hadn't made an impression anywhere in Major League Baseball. He clearly had made an impression with at least one team and probably several. And so I'm glad for him in that way. And I think it raises more questions than it provides answers as far as the Twins firing him and hiring somebody else. So if he's thought well of around baseball, but the Twins don't think so much of him anymore, and what they say is we just want to go a different direction. We want to figure out. We want a hitting coach that can help our guys adjust to the different hitting situations and all that. I mean, we talked about this before, but I mean the shake your head scuttlebutt around the Twins is that these guys don't have any interest in changing and don't know how to if they did or don't want to even try. And so you say, okay, well, so you're hiring a new guy who evidently has articulation skills that can say it better. Or I mean, I think David Popkins, from what I could tell, he was saying and trying to do all the right kinds of things to accomplish what the Twins were trying to accomplish, and it just for whatever reason didn't work. The Twins spent a lot of time promoting, if not publicly, just a tacit agreement among everybody that they were a team that was going to hit the ball to the ballpark. I mean, it started in 2019, and the same guys were pretty much there to a big degree, or at least were cutting their teeth back there. I mean, Max Kepler hit 30-some home runs in it with a live ball. So, I mean, it's not just on the hitting coach. I don't think, and so the hitting coach that comes in now, I think, has a very tough job because he has to be able to teach situational hitting and not give up the ability for these guys to hit the ball out of the ballpark when they can, or to hit line drives. I mean, when James Rowson was with the Twins as a hitting coach, his mantra was hit line drives all over the field, hit the ball as hard as you can. Not as far as you can. Hit it as hard as you can all over the field. And that ends up resulting in home runs a lot of the time, but it also ends up resulting in guys drawing walks and guys hitting with men on base and all those things that you want a hitting lineup of hitters to do. So this fellow's going to come in and try to get his arms and mind around all of that stuff with guys that have really cut their teeth on this is the Bomba Squad, and we hit the ball at the ballpark. So I think it's a challenge. I really do, and I think it's what is it that they know about this fellow from the Orioles that they think is going to be an awful lot better for him to be able to? Because all they said is we don't want to hit the ball. They didn't say we don't want to hit the ball at the ballpark anymore. They want to say we want to hit the ball out of the ballpark, and then when you have situational hitting, we got to be able to do that. Well, yeah, let's see how the hitters respond and if a hitting coach can do that.
What I find really interesting about this hire is that what I heard from kind of the people I trust around the team was that, man, Popkins might be good at what he does and he might fit into this organization's philosophies and all that, but he didn't play in the big leagues, and how is he going to go up to a big slumping big league hitter and say, hey, here's how you get out of a slump? Well, they didn't hire a former big league hitter to replace him. They hired another guy who worked his way up in other ways. So that's why I compare it to hockey coaches. I just wonder if they just want it. It feels to me like they felt like they had to make a change at the position, even if they still thought Popkins was a good hitting coach.
Yeah, that's the way it feels. I mean, I guess my long harangue a second ago was, is summed up that way. I mean, I think it raises a bunch of questions about what they're, what was going on before and what they're trying to accomplish now, and if it's achievable or sum up all kinds of questions.
Yeah. When you were in the big leagues, how much did you rely on a hitting coach, if at all?
I've had various experiences with hitting coaches. The truth of the matter is, Mock was a decent hitting coach as a manager, and he worked with me a lot. He helped me, and one of the when really become a decent major league hitter from a guy that didn't have a lot of power. I wasn't thought to be a good hitter, developing into a decent one, and he put me with actually not anybody on the Twins. He had me talk to Big Ted Kluszewski a couple of springs in a row, 77 and 78. He wanted me to hear. Kluszewski was the hitting coach for the Reds, and the Reds came to our place a couple of times in those years, and I talked with Big Klue, and that really kind of turned me around. And Gene was on board with what Kluszewski was trying to teach those guys and the Reds, and so he was able to be kind of my guru when I was with the Twins. I paid a lot of attention to Rodney Carew. I paid a lot of attention to Tony Oliva and what Tony said. I mean, I learned a lot from Tony. He was I think he was a hitting coach at the time for the Twins, and there were little things that Tony said. I didn't work with him on mechanics or anything. That was more of a Kluszewski Mock kind of deal, and what my approach was going to be. But Tony would say just little things that were so smart. I mean, he was kind of like I've said about Pete Rose, and Pete Rose said there's 4 things you need to know about hitting: move up in the box, move back in the box, move up on the plate, move back on the plate. That's it. But and it's like, okay, what are you trying to accomplish, and how are you going to go about doing that? Tony was the same way. He said, you want to hit some pitchers to the opposite field, so you have to back off the plate and close up a little bit, let the ball travel, and hit the ball that way. Paya, and that was it. And then if you would listen to him, and if you'd practice that in batting practice, you could really accomplish a lot. One of my favorite things that Tony ever said was, if you want, and he was talking about all the hitters, not to me, but when I started hitting some home runs, he came up to me and he said, you see, if you want to hit the ball out of the ballpark, you have to practice hitting the ball out of the ballpark. In batting practice, one round, hit the ball out. And the genius of that is you have to teach your body to react to a home run pitch with a swing that will result in a home run, right? I mean, and you can't just do that. You should practice doing that. You should practice hitting to the opposite field and gap to gap, and then you should take a round where you're trying to get a pitch and hit it hit it in the seats, even in batting practice. He made one other really great comment to me when I had come back to the Twins, right before the World Series year, about one simple mechanical move about getting top arm extension. He said, you hit with extension. You have to get your top arm extended. And I tried that in batting practice, hit about 6 balls in a row in the seats. And I go, God, how can it be that easy? And so, I mean, I just picked up little things from a lot of really smart baseball guys. When I went to New York, Lou Piniella was great. I didn't pay any attention to any of the hitting coaches we had there. Lou and I worked a lot. He helped me a ton. And so, that was kind of, when I came back to the Twins, I thought, Tony was still around and they didn't give him much credit, but I listened to Tony even toward the end of my career, especially. So it wasn't so much specific, this guy's the hitting coach guru and spend every day with him. It was more about just picking up little things from a whole lot of smart people over the years.
Interesting. Because I know, I used to talk to Torrey Hunter about hitting all the time, and he went from a guy who didn't know what a slider was to having a great career. And he would send videos to Bobby Bonilla. He had his own guy. And the Twins hitting coaches were just there to pitch batting practice to him. Also, I want to make this point about Tony Oliva. Kirby Puckett always gave Oliva a lot of credit for his work with him. And I really think if Tony didn't have such a thick accent, I think it would be much easier for people to recognize just how much of a genius he was. Because he when he does an interview, you don't always get all the the good stuff doesn't always come out clearly. But then I talk to you, I talk to Puckett, I talk to other people who are around him, certainly people who had to pitch against him, and they say this guy is a genius.
He knows as much about hitting as anybody that I've ever been around, and he doesn't communicate it as well. And you're absolutely right about that. I think he would have been one of the renowned hitting coaches in baseball if he were a glib English speaker. I mean, I just don't think there's any question about it. I'll just say it. He knows as much or more about hitting as anybody that I've ever been around.
Well, always a good show when we get to talk about you growing up in Southern California and your uncle and Tony Oliva. This is a lot of fun. It's going to be a fun series to watch. Thanks to Roy Smalley. Thanks to everyone who listens. Again, if you like the show, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. Check out all the other shows at talknorth.com, and we'll talk to you next week.